Welcome back to my YouTube channel called Next Chapter LA, where I discuss mostly real estate related subject matters, trying to make this future chapter for you, simplified and hopefully be your partner guiding through the process. Please feel free to reach out. Let me know if there are any subject matters that you want me to discuss, research, and discuss more in depth. Now let me tell you a story. A little while back, I got a call from one of my longtime neighbors. Let's call her Julie. She called me and told me that she had kept all my marketing materials throughout the years, all the newsletters, postcards, and it was time that we talked. Of course, I was super touched and curious. We made an appointment, and when I arrived at her home, I could tell something was shifting. There were boxes everywhere, and some were overflowing. You know that feeling that you realize someone has already moved out, but they haven't quite figured out yet the logistics of that move. That was Julie for you. So we sat down, and she told me that her only child had gone abroad, study abroad, and was not planning to come back. Julie and her husband didn't have that many family members in California, in Los Angeles, exactly. Mostly their family members were all like the East Coast. And for them, they wanted to be closer to the family once the husband retired. So they were thinking about selling and relocating to the East Coast, and they wanted to know how they should go about doing so. So first thing, I asked her to possibly show me the house. So we went room by room, and again, I noticed that she already had started boxing some stuff, and the rooms were mainly cluttered and boxes everywhere. While we were going through the house, she asked me how much I thought the property would be worth for them to sell at that time. Of course, I mentioned to her that selling a property always will depend, and how much they would get as proceeds will always depend on first the market condition, then the location of the property, and last the condition of the house. In reality, Julie or any other seller, neither one of them have control over the market condition or the location of their property. The only thing that they do have control over is the condition of their property. And what they do with that, it's super important because it can make the big difference in how much money they will make at the end to take to the other transaction. And that brings us to the following step. Step number 1 is to improve the condition of the property by decluttering or doing some minor or major improvements that can have a big impact on how you bring the property on the market and how much money you can make. And every of those items could be the subject of a future video that I can work on. Step number 2 is to work on the timeline. You have to figure out where you are in the process of purchasing your next home. Or have you already identified the property? Are you still in the research mode? Are you ready to put your house on the market? Or do you still need some time? In the majority of cases, I've noticed that once the seller contacts the realtor, there's still at least, 4 to 6 months away from putting the property on the market. As part of this working on the timeline, it's important to ask yourself the question, do I need the money from the sales of this transaction to purchase my new home, or do we have enough money to comfortably complete that transaction and then tackle the sales of our current home? In Julie's case, she did not have enough money to complete the purchase transaction. So we needed to do a concurrent escrow so that she gets the money from the sales of this transaction to purchase the new home. And that brings us to step number 3, because figuring out the timeline is one thing, but being actually organized enough to perform the transaction is something else. So in Julie's case, since she needed to relocate to another state, she needed to find moving companies that are specializing in interstate relocations. And that by itself, sometimes it can be very challenging, because depending on what month you're doing your relocation, they could be busy, they can cancel. So it's super important to lock a company that is reliable and you can count on them to be ready for you when you are. So in Julie's situation, they had already identified the house in the East Coast. So it was just a matter of us selling the property here before them continuing with the other transaction. And unfortunately, in her situation, she could not take advantage of Prop 19, that it's only a Californian proposition, which means that you can take your property tax basis with you to wherever you go. In Julie's case, unfortunately, the next property was not in California, so she had to let go of that help of that proposition, and I'm sure she had to pay the regular property tax on her future home. As you can see, the process of relocating to another house, whether it's in the same state or out of state, could be lengthy and could have a lot of glitches along the way. If you have the right partner by your side, everything can go so much more smoother. So I'm sure you want to know what happened in Julie's case and what did she decide and what happened. So in Julie's situation, she was already overwhelmed by the amount of work needed to bring the property to a level that she would get a lot more money. Thank goodness for her, the property was in a great location, and nothing but in that condition, even if it needed work, was enough for her to proceed with the transaction without doing any major or minor improvements. So what we decided at the end was that she needed to declutter, and that involved maybe donating some of the stuff, starting to pack and maybe put them away so that I can at least show the property a bit decluttered. And then we would put it on the market, advertising it as off-market first, and then maybe go on the market if we didn't have the right offers. And I'm so happy to say that she, without even going on the market, because she didn't want to subject herself to many open houses, people coming and going through the house, since she had a lot of boxes. So she decided to sell the property off market, and we got a very good price for her that she was happy with, because it came down to, again, her personal choices that, do I want to go through improving the house, major improvements or even minor improvements, or do I want to sell it as is without having any problem whatsoever? In her case, it all worked out. We had to do a leaseback because she wanted to stay longer without having any problem coordinating with the future escrow. So we got a leaseback for her, and that